Alright, so here's the truck with the lift kit on it. Greetings everyone, Mike here with my little Frontier there. Last weekend we put in a small lift kit from AllDogs Offroad, their RCKilla kit. Turned out rather nice, got the 33s mounted on it. I was going to do a video on the install, but weather and some other things, the video for that just didn't pan out. So today I'm just going to get under the truck, talk a little bit about the install, some tips and tricks, things to do, things not to do. So we'll get the phone camera flipped around here, get under the truck, and we'll talk about this. Alright, so here's the truck with the lift kit on it. Like I said, that was the RCKilla kit from AllDogs Offroad. Gave me 2 inches in the front, 1.5 inches in the rear. Not a significant lift, but enough lift to fit the 33s on there. I went with some American Racing AR 933s, I think. They're 17-inch by 8.5. Got a plus 18 offset, keeps them tucked under the truck a little bit, but not far enough that I get any rub at the wheel locks. I think the factory ones are a plus 30. Those are wrapped in some Cooper STT Pros. Those are a 285/70 series. They fit under there pretty nicely. Gives the truck a nice stance. So let's hop under the rear end. Talk a little bit about what the process was for getting the rear end done. Not too bad. You basically just adding an added leaf kit to your leaf pack, so not too significant. So let's hop under here and see what we got. Alright, so under the truck you can see the new leaf pack on here. You basically just take your leaf pack out. There's an overload spring on here. You'll take the overload spring off, you replace it with this 3 leaf pack that comes with the kit, and that's really all that's done as far as additions are under the rear end. I just put the truck on jack stands right there before the frame, makes that angle up on both sides, up pretty high so you have some travel for your rear end. You're going to want to disconnect your brake line. There is a little bracket on the other side here. You can just pry it up with a screwdriver, and that'll come right off. And then your ABS line, it's just a rubber grommet and a mount. There's one here and there's one up on the other side there. Just take those off so you have some clearance with your hoses, so you don't tear anything up as you're raising and lowering your rear end. There is the front bracket that's fixed for the leaf pack, and then you have the rear shackles for the leaf pack. One thing I learned with this truck is this shackle is an assembly, so when you got to take both bolts out, and then this whole piece, the top and the bottom, come out together. You don't have to take it all the way out. I disconnected from my axle before I took these off, or the front bracket off. Once you get both of the bolts out, you can kind of tap this assembly sideways a little bit, just flush with the frame here. You don't have to take it all the way off. Just get it flush with the frame, the bolt flush with the frame, then you can slide your leaf pack off. Not too bad. And then, like I said, you just have the front fixed mount in the front. On the bracket here for the rear end, the U-bolts that come with the kit are significantly larger than the U-bolts that are on here from the factory. So these bolts do not fit through the lower bracket on the mount here. So just be aware, when you go to put this back together, you're going to have to drill out the holes on this lower bracket so they'll take these the new U-bolts. I just use a step bit and just open those up till I can fit them through. On the leaf pack, when you get this out, it's not difficult to change. You're just taking off that overload spring, replacing it with this 3-leaf pack that comes with the kit. When you start taking this apart to take the overload spring off, I do suggest you put a clamp on it. Mine still had tension on it, so I just kind of clamped it together there. You'll take there's one bracket on the overload spring that looks similar to this. I can't remember which side it was on. The new leaf pack has one on each end. And then there's a center threaded post that runs through your leaf pack. You'll take that off, take your overload pack off, put your new pack on, clamp it down, put the center stud back in, get it tightened down, and then put your screws back on your brackets here. Really fairly simple, nothing to it. On reassembly, I ran into one little issue, nothing too major, but on that center post on your leaf pack, there's a little stud that sticks down that has to fit through a hole on the mounting plate on the axle. When you put your leaf pack back on, that hole does not line up with your axle because your leaf pack has no pressure on it and it just doesn't really line up. So I thought about it for a little while, and what I did, instead of mounting this to the axle first and then trying to finagle the mounting for the leaves and get the shackles on, I went ahead and mounted the leaf springs on both ends, got them on the shackle, and then I hooked a ratchet strap to my axle and then connected the other end up to the frame, kind of under the driver's door there, and put tension on the axle. You don't want to try to pull the axle all the way forward to get this in. You just want to put some tension on the axle to hold it in place, and then you can get your leaf pack lined up and start jacking up your axle. And once you start getting tension on your leaf pack, that little post will slide across your bracket and eventually will just pop right in. Then you can go ahead and put your U-bolts on, get your brackets back on, and get that tightened up. Pay attention when you put this lower bracket on that you don't get one side too high or too low, or just try to get it as parallel as you can to your upper mounting bracket, and before you tighten those up. And then it's just a matter of putting your lower shock back on, getting your tubing back in, and then doing the other side. Really was not very difficult once I kind of figured out to put a ratchet strap on the rear end so it would hold it in the kind of in the forward position. I raised the rear end up. That little post eventually just slid right into the bracket on the axle, and then it's just put everything back together. So rear end wasn't too bad. Easily done. You don't need any crazy special tools. Like I said, a couple of floor jacks, preferably not from Harbor Freight, and a floor jack, and they went in pretty easy. So let's hop out. We'll move to the front and talk about it. So hopefully we can see under here pretty decent. So on the front end, all you're doing is replacing this spring on your coilovers with the new one that comes in the kit, and that gives you your lift on the front end. To take this out, super simple. The front end's actually easier to get out and back together than the rear end. You want to take off this bolt on your sway bar, take it off on both sides, then you can just pull down on your sway bar and swing it out of the way. You need to get your sway bar out of the way so you have access to the bottom bolt on your shock. Once you get your sway bar out of the way, you can take out the bottom bolt on your shock. This assembly is the tension's all within the assembly, so you don't have to worry about this, you know, popping out the bottom or getting crazy on you. Take that out, and then you have 3 mounting bolts. You can see one back there, and then there's another one up here. Kind of hard to see, but there it is there. So you can see the 3 mounting bolts. Take these off. Once again, I've got the front of the truck up on jack stands. Using my floor jack to kind of hold the lower control arm. Lower the lower control arm down. Then you can pivot. You can pivot your shock mount kind of out here and bring that whole assembly down and just take the whole assembly out. There's really nothing to it. I did put cam bolts on the lower control arms. I just got them from AllDogs Offroad when I ordered my kit. You can see the cam bolts here. Got one on each side of your lower control arm. You are going to want to put these in to get your camber adjusted, because once you get it lifted up, your camber will be off. I have heard some people say they put them in and didn't have any issues with their camber, but I don't know if they were working on a different version of the truck on the Pro 4X. Once I put it all back together, you could stand out in front of the truck and you could see that the camera was off. So I had made an appointment already to get the alignment done on Monday morning, and so while I had the assembly out, I went ahead and replaced these cam bolts. They went in really simple, and I just kind of put them in and left everything centered. It was good enough to get me to the shop on Monday morning to get that done. The one thing with this that I don't suggest is changing out that spring by yourself. I just went to AutoZone, got one of their compression kits, and I did mine myself, and I got it done, but it was a pain, and I highly suggest just taking these assemblies out, take them to a shop, let the guys at the shop put it there, nice cool tools, and replace that spring for you. The problem I ran into with this is once you get, there's like 10 coils on the new spring, there's only like 8 on the old one. When you get this in and you get it under compression, you can't get the mounts back out of the springs. There's not enough room to get the mounts back out. So what I ended up doing was taking the shaft completely out, so all 4 of the cleats were loose. Had to drive a screwdriver in between the cleat and the spring, get one corner of the cleat pried out between the springs, and I could beat the rest of it out with a hammer. Wasn't very fun. I don't suggest anybody do it. So just bite the bullet, take these assemblies to a shop, have them do your springs for you, and it'll save you a lot of headaches, unless of course you have a shop or have a good spring compressor, which I don't. So and then you just put these back in. Like I said, you just put the assembly in, bring your shock down here, put it in the top. When you pull these out, I would suggest you kind of mark that front post so you know the orientation, and if you take both of them out, I would probably mark them on which one's driver and which one's passenger, just to get them in the right side, because there's a little angle up there, but I'm not sure that it really matters, but it might save you some headaches. And like I said, mark that top post so you know your orientation on the top mount. And then I also marked my top mount to the orientation of my bottom bolt, so when I put the springs back on, I could orient the bottom mounting bracket so that it lined back up when I put the assembly back in. If you don't have that marked, you put these back together, you stick it in, and your lower mounting might be off at some crazy angle or something, and with the amount of tension that's on these springs, you're not going to have a good time trying to get that straightened back out. So you'll save yourself some hassle if you just kind of mark it. When I put my springs back together, I just kind of eyeballed my mark and lined it back up, and I was probably only a couple of degrees off on the bottom mounts, and they went back together without any issues. But if this is at some crazy angle, I've seen guys sticking rods in there with 8-foot cheater bars trying to spin that around, and I was amazed they didn't just twist the bottom mount off their shock. So if you'll pay attention to the orientation of how these go in and out, and your mounts, how your bottom mount is oriented to your top mount, and try to get that back together as best you can, it'll save you some headaches when you put that assembly back in. So that is really it. That was really all there is to the RCKilla kit. So sorry, dropped my microphone. So that was pretty much it. That's really kind of all there is to the RCKilla kit. Gives you some pretty nice lift. The kit rides good. It's a little bit stiffer than your factory, but it's not real significant. Gives the truck a nice look. You can get some bigger tires on there. And that's really it. So those kind of the lessons that I learned on doing this by myself in the driveway. Went in pretty good, other than those springs on the coilovers. It's a pretty easy kit to do. So if you're thinking about doing this yourself, hopefully this helps out a little bit anyway. Like I said, it's not a difficult kit to do. Basic tools, a couple of floor stands or jack stands, and a floor jack, and you can pretty much do it in an afternoon. And like I said, I don't suggest the trying to do the coilover springs by yourself. It's unless you really have a nice compressor to switch those out with. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Hey, one quick thing I forgot to mention on the rear end is on top of your leaf pack, and I'm going to try to see if we can just kind of see through the wheel here, there is a bump stop in there. That bump stop is on a bracket that the top of your U-bolts sit into the bracket. When you put that center post, the new center post, into your leaf pack, it is too tall to put your bump stop back on. So just be aware that once you get your leaf pack in there, that you're going to have to cut. You're going to have to cut the top of that bolt off so you can get your bump stop back on the leaf pack. Other than that, I don't think there was anything else I forgot to talk about with this lift kit. So anyway, like I said, looks pretty nice. I like the way that it looks. Tires and wheels went on pretty good. Did have to do some modifications on the front fender wells to get clearance on those. I'll do another video on that of what I did to get the clearance for those 33s. But other than that, there you go. That's the RCKilla kit from AllDogs Offroad. Went in pretty good, other than those coil springs. So hope this helps everybody out if you're thinking about doing this yourself. And we'll talk to you guys next time.